A moment, just very quickly to move on, is link to the webinars is autoresponder services. And in days, I'm going to guarantee that a lot of sports still have quite antiquated databases based on Excel spreadsheets or Access spreadsheets. I can't even remember what they're called. That Access spreadsheets and things like that have existed for quite some time. But these days, it's really easy to set up autoresponder type services like Aweber, GetResponse, iContact, or MailChimp, or even Infusionsoft. There's a number of them, commercial ones around that are cheap to run. You can have up to 5,000 subscribers in an Aweber account and pay about $60 a month for that service, where you're able to broadcast and program messages to your subscribers really easy, and use opt-in forms to get subscribers from websites and control them in contact with your subscribers and members in that kind of way. Very, very easy to use these sorts of services, and very, very cheap these days too. And just to give an idea as how you're able to integrate those into other services like webinars, what happens here when people register for this webinar was that I used a service called Lead Pages to customize the registration process. So that's one technology. I was then able to integrate that with Aweber, which is another technology, which is the database. So when you register for the webinar, you come into my Aweber database, and I'm able then to send you messages in the future about future webinars, past webinars, new material. And all that is able to integrate because of what they call APIs, but able to adapt and modify and integrate different technologies so that I can really control that experience for you. So we've had a customized registration process. It's a one-click registration process. It comes into my database as well as it go to webinar, and I'm able to then liaise and coordinate and send you materials because it comes into my database that way. So really being able to integrate these sort of things is a terrific and very cost-effective, easy thing to do. Okay, Keith, you want for the future, Keith.
Thanks, Peter. As you were talking and Jean was talking, I was thinking about a great word that's appeared. If you produce digital resources and use them, these days we can often remix a variety of sources and tools and information. And there's this wonderful word by Axel Bruns called a producer, where we all are creating and sharing. And one of my hopes is that we can actually start to do that together. So my third tip is something that that is a reality in the last week or so, where I've started to use Evernote to make notes of links, of resources. And currently I'm sharing these with coaches around the world. And the resources themselves can then be passed on to other people who might then do something with them. So my idea is, there was this bid a few months ago called Everslide, which will turn Evernotes into slide presentations. But actually something's appeared in the last week called Slide Note, which aims to do that. So my tip for the future is using Evernote as an everyday, and it could be, Jean, a reflective note that could be shared across an organization. But Evernote plus the presentation, I think, is going to be very powerful, rather like SlideRocket is now, Peter.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And SlideRocket, I find is a terrific, because some of the slides for these webinars are quite large in their file size, for example. But using something like SlideRocket, people are able to view and download those in different formats and different ways.
And Peter, that's the slide note that's appeared in the last week.
Okay.
So my vision 2 months ago actually is a reality, which shows how quickly this area develops and why it's so important we connect and share what's happening. Thanks, Peter.
Brilliant. Thanks, Keith. we're just about on time. We'll keep moving forward, people. Let me just unmute Jean. Okay, Jean, your own personal learning.
Thank you, Peter. This is the third and final bit from me. We've talked about e-learning and adjuncts to e-learning, I guess with the thought to helping others. But what about our own personal learning? I think that's important. And technologies really do come to the fore. And they can be of an essentially private nature. And it's probably in my disposition to not be connected with everyone in the world, whereas my colleague Keith Lyons is probably connected to everybody on the planet. And the digital technologies allow us to be somewhere on that spectrum. And if you go to the next slide, what I've put there, and these are a number of technologies that I use, or a number of approaches. The first is just accessing neat things on the web, whether that's a TED Talk or Keith Lyons' Clyde Street, or Sue Waters' EduBlogger. That's an Aussie with a terrific EdTech blog, EduBlogger. I think that's something I'd encourage everybody to do, to take a subscription or two to a useful something. The second, you can see the iPad there, and iPads and tablets generally, and mobile devices are really in transition in the sense of how does all of that fit in with some of the more traditional or more traditional technologies. So if you have a big learning management system initially designed for people sitting at desks, how does all of that work? And that transition is happening. We're not there yet, but my encouragement to you would be to get hold of a tablet of whatever choice and to start playing with it, and to perhaps take some software, some authoring software, and put together a little book that's full of digital goodies. The third one you can see there is a wiki. I did a course, a presentation at a health and physical education conference, the national conference. And rather than provide a handout or a dead trees paper, I put together a little Wikispaces wiki, and that was my handout. And that had more information in it than I could ever put into a paper. Now, it's a little bit outdated, but it was useful at the time. Then the fourth one you can see coming up, it's this challenge of digital file exchange, particularly when you have big files, media-rich files, and things like Dropbox, but there are others, Google Drive and eBackpack and others, is a nifty way to exchange files that might be knocked out by an organisation's system because there's a file size limit. And then the next one that's coming up is the social bookmarking. And we all know about bookmarking when you know, at perhaps your desktop, and you bookmark a page, and that information is stored locally. But what if we could share all of our bookmarks with other people? And I use that tool, that Diigo, for that. And I can bookmark, I can tag something. So it might be e-learning, tablets, sport. I can highlight things, I can annotate things, I can do a little clip out of a larger article, and I can share and search. So I could share with you my bookmarks, as you could share yours with me. So we might just finish, and that wraps me up. What is your favourite tool that enables your own assist your own personal learning?
We've got a few of those coming in. as well. Thanks, guys. Looking at Skype and LinkedIn and Viber and suggestions like that people use for communication as well as for learning.
Super.
Right. Thanks, Gene. Thank you.